بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Inshallah, today we are going to be starting from the rulings of fasting, and specifically regarding the items that do not nullify the fast of an individual. So when we are fasting, there are certain things that you are allowed to do and there are certain things that you are not allowed to do. Sometimes a person does something and he thinks that my fast is nullified, or he does something and thinks that the fasting is not nullified. So what are the things that will nullify the fast and the things that will not nullify the fast? So first we are going to cover the things that will not nullify the fast. And then after that, we are going to cover the things that are nullifying the fast, which are of two categories. Number one, which mandate the qada. You have to make up the fast, but there is no kafara penalty attached to it. And then the second type of nullification of the fast is those that break the fast, and along with that, you have to give kafara because it was done, something was done intentionally, or a person did it for something that is he is not supposed to do while he's fasting. So we will get to that in details, inshallah. So first is things that do not nullify the fast. وَهُوَ أَرْبَعَةٌ وَعِشْرُونَ شَيْئًا. There are 24 things that do not, or a little bit more than 24, that do not nullify the fast. Number one is eating, drinking, or having a relationship with your spouse forgetfully. So if you ate something or you drank something forgetfully, and then later on you realize that you were fasting, your fasting is still valid and it's not nullified. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if anyone forgetfully eats or drink while observing the fast, he should complete his fasting, for Allah has fed him and given him to drink. So now, if you see someone that is eating and you know that he is fasting, what should be your approach to this individual? So the fuqaha mentioned that looking at the scenario of this individual, because the hadith says Allah has given him food and Allah has given him water to drink. Now, should you remind him that you're fasting and because of eating you should not be eating, or you should let him eat? So the fuqaha has said, if the person, he is healthy and keeping fast does not bring any weaknesses upon him, then you should remind him at the time that he is eating that you're eating but you're fasting, so he can refrain from eating. But if a person, he is not healthy enough or he is weak, at that time you would let him eat even though you know that he's eating and he's fasting. Now, if for some reason the person was healthy and you did not remind him, is that sinful? Does that break his fast? No, it doesn't break his fast. Because nisyan, forgetfulness, it is ma'fu'an, forgiven from the ummah. So if anything is done in forgetfulness, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives. Similarly, if a person, he does not go through the relationship but just thinks about it, and due to that a discharge comes out, does that nullify the fast? As long as the physical relationship did not take place, the nullification of the fast will not be there. Just thinking about it or having a discharge by thinking about it would not nullify the fast of an individual. If a person has applied oil to his hair, that will not nullify the fast. And similarly, if someone has used kuhl, the eyeliner for the eyes, and due to the heaviness, sometimes the eyeliners are so heavy that you can feel the substance in your throat. So even if you feel the substance in your throat, your fasting will not be nullified and still be valid. This will be the same ruling as applying eye drops at the time when you're fasting. When you apply eye drops, this does not nullify the fast. أو احتجم, if a person does cupping while he's fasting, this does not nullify the fast still remains. There is a narration in which the Prophet ﷺ saw that there were two people doing hijama, they were cupping, they were having the cupping done, and they were backbiting. So Rasul ﷺ told them that your fasting is not valid. So the fuqaha mentioned that the validity is not the actual validity, it's about the reward. And the dislikeness of the Prophet ﷺ upon these people's behavior was not because of cupping, it was rather because of backbiting. So backbiting is something that diminishes and destroys the reward of fasting. However, fasting will still be valid. And there are many narrations regarding a person's reward being wasted due to backbiting or slandering or misusage of tongue. So this is the spiritual aspects of fasting, when a person, as he maintains himself physically, that making sure he's not doing anything deliberately, intentionally, which can be a means of bringing a problem to his fast. Similarly, this individual needs to be mindful of the spiritual aspects of it: backbiting, slandering, abusive of language, lying, all of these things that can make the reward of fasting go away completely. If a person intends that I want to break my fast, but he does not actually break it, this will keep his fast. It will not be considered that he has nullified his fast. Why? Because nullification only happens with amal, not with intention. And a person will be judged upon his amal on the day of judgment. If some type of smoke enters the throat while a person is fasting unintentionally, this will not nullify the fast. So, you walk up to some place or go into some place and there's a lot of smoke, and while you're fasting, you are inhaling some of that smoke. This will not nullify the fast if it's done unintentionally. But if a person does intentionally, there are two opinions of the scholar. The first opinion is considered makruh tahrimi, meaning a very highly disliked act, which will completely diminish the reward. And some of the fuqaha have mentioned that the fasting will be nullified. Likewise, if even the dust of a flower or a fly on the taste of the medicine accidentally enters the throat while one remembers that he is fasting, then his fasting is not nullified. So let's say you have some medicine, or the taste of the medicine which you have applied somewhere else, that has gone through your throat, this will not nullify the fast. Similarly, if a person walks into a mill where the flour is being produced, there's a lot of smoke because of that. So this will not nullify the fast either. If a person, he is in a hala of impurity, and this is what you're calling the major impurity, which requires a person to take a bath to become clean. If a person, he is in that stage of impurity, his fasting will still be considered valid. Even though he stays the entire day in that situation, although this action is disliked, but the fasting will be considered valid. Similarly, if a person enters the dawn and he is not in a stage of purity, then the fasting will be considered as valid. If some type of medicine has been applied to the areas where you have an opening, because now you have to understand the concept of fasting. There are natural opening areas and there are unnatural opening areas. When we talk about the natural opening areas, you have the opening of the mouth, you have the opening of the nostrils, you have the opening of the ears, and then you have the opening of the maq'ad, which is the private parts, and then you have the opening of the front part. So these are places which are already open in the body of human being. They have a passage inside. Now, ulama mentions that if medicine has been dropped through the opening of the body of human being, if it's providing nutrition to the body, then that fasting will be considered as invalid. But if it's not providing nutritions, then it's considered as valid. If it's no opening, for example, injection, something that you put inside, there is no opening on your body, but you make a hole and then you put something inside. So even if it's providing nutritions to the body, it will still be making your fast as valid. That's why fuqaha mentions taking insulin through the injection while you're fasting does not nullify the fast, because the injection, it's not a natural opening. It's an opening that you have made it with your own hand, and due to that, the fasting will not be nullified, or anything else you have put in through the injection or through a non-opening. Now, if it's an opening that is given for the purpose of providing nutritions, like a person eats, so he puts food which provides nutritions. So as long as it's not providing nutritions, for example, taking medication and putting medication on through those opening, if the opening has a link to your stomach, then that will nullify the fast. If it doesn't have a connection to your stomach, then it does not nullify the fast. Now, when we talk about connection with the stomach is what? When there is a direct connection. If there is no direct connection involved, then the fasting will still be considered valid. If a person enters a river or he goes into a swimming pool while he's fasting, there is no water that has gone through his throat, but water goes into his ear, opening of the ear. His fast will still be valid and will not break. So if you can control your mouth, that no water goes inside your mouth while you're swimming, then having the water to go in your ears will not nullify the fast. Your fast will still be considered valid. If nasal mucus enters the nasal passage and a person, he sniffs it back in through his throat, so that does not. So if the nasal mucus comes in and a person sniffs it in through his throat, it goes into his stomach, this action does not nullify the fast. According to Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentions that phlegm and mucus, if it's traveling through your body from your nostrils, and then you bring it into your mouth and then you swallow it, then Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi mentions that this will nullify the fast, as with the Jamhur, which is the Aimma Thalatha, mentioned that this will not nullify the fast and the fasting will still be considered valid. Now, the next thing is about vomit. There are two types of vomit. One is deliberately vomiting, and the second thing is without deliberately, the vomiting comes unintentionally. So the first category is that if you have vomited intentionally, for example, you're not feeling good or you had too much suhoor and now you want to take some of it out, so you intentionally take out the food from your stomach, you vomit out. Now, if this vomit is equivalent to a mouthful, which is about a substance that can be easily fixed or put into your mouth, if the vomit is to that extent, then this will nullify the fast. If it's less than that, then it will not nullify the fast. If there are multiple vomits, then you will combine all of them together, becomes a mouthful or more, nullifies the fast. Less than mouthful does not nullify the fast. Now, if the vomit has come unintentionally, for example, let's say a fly went into your throat and you start vomiting, right? So this is not intentionally. Or you were just walking and you start vomiting. So even if it exceeds a mouthful, it will not nullify the fast, no matter how much vomit you have done. So, and then in unintentional vomit, it is required that a person, he takes it out. Now let's say if a person brings the vomit and then he takes it back in, right, without taking it out. He thinks, oh, I'm fasting, I need to protect my fast. So he takes the vomit back inside. Does this nullify the fast or not? Imam Muhammad and Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi say that this action does not nullify the fast because nothing from outside has gone inside. The condition is something from outside has to go inside for the nullification of the fast. But if something which is inside and stayed inside, then this will not nullify the fast. If a person has eaten something which are between his teeth, as long as the substance or whatever he has eaten is less than a chickpea, a garbanzo bean, then his fasting will be considered valid. If it's more than a chickpea, then the fasting will be nullified. If a person, he takes it out from his mouth, he finds something between his teeth, he takes it out and he looks at it, or he takes it out and then puts it back in, even if it's less than a garbanzo bean, it will still nullify the fast, because when you take it out, you're putting it back in is as if you're putting something inside your mouth while you're fasting. So even a small amount will be considered as invalid. If a person chews something that does not have any taste or does not bring the taste to your throat, then this does not nullify the fast. If the taste comes down to your throat, then it will nullify. So as long as it stays in the mouth. Similarly, if you are, let's say, brushing your teeth with a toothpaste. Now, does that nullify the fast or not? Toothpaste, using toothpaste, as long as it stays in your mouth, it does not nullify the fast. If it goes down your throat, then it nullifies the fast. Similarly with the mouthwash. If the mouthwash goes down your throat, then it will nullify the fast. If it stays in your mouth, it will not nullify the fast. If you taste it, there is a difference between the taste and the breath, the smell of it. The smell is fine, but the taste is not fine. So if you are tasting it down your throat, toothpaste or mouthwash, it will nullify the fast. If you don't taste the actual thing in your throat, then it will not nullify the fast. That's why some of the fuqaha mentions that it's best to avoid it while you're fasting. But if someone does use it, the fasting will still be considered valid. Similarly, if a person has something which is very small and he swallows it. So if it's a food item, edible item, then this will nullify the fast. But if it's a non-edible item, then does not nullify the fast. So let's say if a person, he swallows a button or something small playing in his mouth and it just goes inside his throat. So as long as if it's not an edible item, then it will not nullify the fast. But if it's an edible item, then it will nullify the fast. Okay, so this is considered the actions that does not nullify the fast. Babu ma yufsid as-sawm wa tajibu bihi al-kaffara ma'a al-qada. Chapter regarding those actions which nullify the fast, and then it makes it compulsory upon a person to make up for the day that he has missed the fast or broke the fast of, and also requires him to pay penalty, kafara. So there are 22 things which if performed willingly, intentionally, and unintentionally without being compelled, that results in the termination of the fast and requires a compulsory makeup and also kafara penalty to take out the violation of this act. Now, number one is if a person has a relationship with his spouse while he is fasting, this act will require him to make up for that fast as well as give kafara if it's done intentionally. Similarly, eating and drinking intentionally will nullify the fast, either if it's food or medicine. So whatever it's a source of giving nutrition to the body, affecting the body, either food or medicine, and that is through the mouth. If you eat something intentionally or drink something or take medication intentionally, then this will nullify the fast. Ibtila'u matrin, if a person swallows the rainwater after it enters the mouth, breaks the fast and necessary to make up the day of the. Now, if this action have happened unintentionally, then of course it will be the same hukum. Or if a person did it because he forgot that he was fasting, then this will not nullify the fast. If it happened accidentally, meaning he knows he's fasting, but accidentally it went down. The person, he is rinsing his mouth and water accidentally goes down his throat. He didn't do it intentionally, but he was just rinsing his mouth and then it went down accidentally. This act will nullify the fast, but will not make penalty compulsory upon this individual. Eating grease or something that is of that type nullifies the fast and requires the expenditure. So the person thinks, okay, I'm not allowed to eat food, but I eat something else. So as long as it is something that goes into your mouth, it will nullify the fast as well as it will make kafara upon you if it's done intentionally. Eating seeds of wheat. So you're not eating the actual flour, but you're eating the seeds of the wheat or barley, something like that. If a person, he swallows it down his throat, this will nullify the fast if he did it intentionally. Now, when we talk about nullification with qada, that actions that will nullify the fast and you will have to make up for the qada, when do you have to do this qada? Is it mandatory for you to do it before the next year's fasting starts? Or you can even do it afterwards? Or can we skip the optional fast and do the fasting after Ramadan? So as far as the qada is concerned, it's the first priority out of all the fast except for the fard fast. So after Ramadan, in any given time of the day, of the year, the priority is been given to the fasting that you have missed in your life. So let's say if a person, he started to fast after X amount of years of his life. Now this individual, for him to start fasting, now all the fast that he has missed, he has two options. Either the fasting are so much that he's not able to do taklif ma la yutaq, it is beyond his capacity. Then of course he will give the fidya of the fast. If this individual intends to fast and he is fasting, then the first priority would be given to those fasts that he has missed. Now, how are you going to calculate? It's easy. You X amount of years that you did not fast, each you will count as 30. Even though some of the months might be 29, but still you will count as 30 days of each year, and you will calculate that, and accordingly you start making up the fast. The qada of fasting and salah, this is something that is mandatory upon individuals. Similarly, all the fara'id, hajj, zakah, these are all things that are mandatory upon individual. If you miss it, then you gotta make up for it. If you don't make up for it, then there are consequences. If you wanted to make up for it, but intentionally you did not make up for it, then you have to, give it to or make it a wasiyah at the time. So if a person is dying, then he should make wasiyah of the fasting, that I have missed X amount of fasting in my life, so I want someone to give fidya on my behalf. This is something that is required. Similarly, if a person upon whom hajj was fard but never performed it, he has to give wasiyah that hajj was obligatory upon me, but I never performed, so someone should perform this hajj on my behalf. as the riwayat of Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim mentions, that a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, my father passed away and Hajj was due upon him, but he was not able to go for it. The Nabi alayhi salam, she asked, Ya Rasulullah, afa ahujju anhu, should I go and perform Hajj on his behalf? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, yes, if your father would have any debt that he needs to be paid off, he needs to pay it off, wouldn't you consider paying those off? He said, yes. The Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said that the debt that owes to Allah, it is more responsible and more important that a person should pay it off. So, when you have missing of fasting, when you did not fast for a certain amount of days, whatever reason might be, sickness, traveling, or whatever else, and you did not fast. And remember, if you didn't fast, it is something different than breaking your fast, right? Let's say a person upon him fasting is fard, okay? And he knows that he's supposed to fast, but he doesn't fast. Qada will be mandatory upon him, and for missing a fast intentionally, he would be punished, right? If he doesn't do tawbah, if he doesn't repent. If a person starts his fast and then intentionally breaks his fast, then he has to do qada and then he has to give kafara, right? And kafara is 2 months or, feeding X amount of masakin, right? So either this or that, you can take it. If you're not able to fast for 2 months, then of course you will give fidya for the fasting. Now, there is a difference between the ulama that are you going to give one fidya for all the fast that you have missed in your life, or you have to give fidya for each fast? So if you are making up the fast by 2 months, then you just have to do that 2 months and you're done. Okay? But if you are giving fidya of the fast, then you will give the amount of sadaqal fitr for each fast that you have missed. Okay? So, let's say you broke a fast intentionally. Now when you break your fast intentionally, there is qada and there is penalty, kafara. Qada is that you have to make up for this fast. Penalty is what? You have to fast for 2 months, or you have to feed masakin, 60 people for the fast. Now, if you have done, you have to give fidya of the fast. So fidya is, each fast is equivalent to 1 sadaqat al-fitr, which is about 3.75 kg of wheat flour. Now, let's say you decided and you said, okay, I have done a very wrong thing. I broke my fast intentionally. Now I'm going to make up the qada. And now you decided to do the qada for 2 months, right? You fasted for 2 consecutive months. So this kafara would be sufficient for all the fast that you have missed, plus the amount of fasting that you are going to make up for. So let's say you broke 5 fasts, right? Now in that 5 fasts, you have to make up for the 5 fasts that you have broken. And along with that, you have to fast for 2 months. You're not going to fast for 10 months, okay? You're not going to fast for 10 months. You're just going to fast for 2 months. That's going to be the kafara. And then you will make up the 5 fasts that you have missed. Now, let's say you're not able to do kafara, okay? You're not able to fast for 2 months. You're going to pay. So now, the amount of fasting that you have missed, you're going to pay for each fast, whatever the kafara is. So, kafara for the fasting, kafara for also the, fidya for fasting, and kafara for missing the fast. And that is going to be feeding 60 people. So you will feed the 60 people, and along with that, you will give, each fast you will give around $5 to $7 per fast. So that's how it gets distributed. So, but you're not going to you're not going to give, let's say 5 fasts you have missed. You're not going to feed 60 people for each fast. You're just going to feed 60 people once. Okay, like you fasted for 2 months once. Similarly, you will just feed 50, 60 people for once. You're not gonna feed them every time just because of you missed 5 fast. Now, if it was done unintentionally, then you just have to do qada, and now you don't have to make kafara. It is highly recommended to make up for your fast before the arrival of the next month, next year Ramadan. So let's say you have last Ramadan, you have few fasting leftovers that you did not do for you were sick or you were traveling or whatever. Now, before the next year's Ramadan arrives, it is highly recommended. And some of the fuqaha has considered wajib. Now, let's say if your Ramadan has arrived, next year's Ramadan has arrived, and you still have some of the fasting remaining of the last year that you did not make up for. What's going to happen? You will do the Ramadan, and then after that, you will make up for the fast that you have missed for the previous year. And it is better to make it up before, but still you can make it up after. It's not that after the next Ramadan has come, now there is no longer you can make up for those fasts, because this is a debt that stays with you as long as you live. And if you pass away, you have to execute your will in such a way that this debt is paid off. Inshallah, we will stop here and then we'll continue more with the qada and kafara next week. We ask Allah to grant us the proper understanding of this, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us for our shortcomings. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Any questions? Yes, brother. So, let's say if he starts fasting at the age of 40 and he's missed, let's say, 20 years of fasting. Now, each year is 30 days fasting. So you will times that by 20, right? And whatever the number you will get, either you can fast for those days if you have the ability to do so. Now, what you can do is you can take those numbers and start fasting if Allah has given you health. Remember, fidya, it's a compensation of fast. The reality is fasting. Fidya is only given when you're not able to fast or if it's impossible for you to fast. Okay? So let's say if it's like, over 1,000 days that you have missed, right? There's so many days or 500 days that you have missed of fasting, then of course it's going to be difficult for you to actually make up for those days. Then at that time you will just give fidya. And each fasting will be one sadaqal fitr, one person's meal. So let's say about anywhere between $4 to $5 per fast. So if it's, let's say, 100 fast, you will give $500. I mean, no. If it's 100 fast, you'll give $500 for all the 100 fasts that you have missed. So kafara is only mandatory if you broke your fast. Let's say you started fasting and you broke it. Then you have to give qada, you have to do qada and kafara. But if you never fasted, you never started the fast, then you have to pay qada for it. You have to make qada for it. There is no kafara on this. Why? Because there is sin. There is a heavy sin involved intentionally leaving out the fast. But if you intentionally break the fast, then you have qada and kafara. But if you intentionally left the fast, you have sin and qada. So for sin, you have to ask for repentance, and qada, you just have to make up. Yes. Yes, as long as it's going through an injection. It's not going through your mouth, your nose, or your ears. IV is also fine, permissible while you're fasting. But you should not do it if someone is weak and let's say he's going through a dehydration and you put him in IV. As long as nothing has gone through his mouth, that IV is not going to nullify his fast. Because the IV is going through his veins. It's not a direct consumption. But a person should only do it when there is a necessity. Similarly, for diabetic patients, they take insulin. So they can take the injection one, not the one that goes through the mouth. Inhaler, the correct opinion of that, or the sound opinion, I would say, not correct, the sound opinion of that is that you should not use it while you're fasting. The asthma pump you're talking about, right? Because it's a direct connection through your throat. Some of the fuqaha have mentioned that since it's not taghaddi, it is not giving you nutrition, it's just giving you the ability to breathe, right? So they say that it is permissible. So putting this two opinion into one is that in normal situation you should not use it, but if it's a severe case, you should use it and your fasting will still be valid. No. If you're taking a shower of purification, fard ghusl, while you are fasting, then you don't need to take the water to your throat. You will only keep it in your mouth, so you will just rinse your mouth. Same thing with the nose. You will not take it up to all the way to your nostrils. You will just, just be in the front, and that's it. So if you have a leftover water and sometimes you swallow it, it is not water, it's more saliva than water. So, swallowing your saliva is permissible, it does not nullify the fast, as long as you have spit the water out. So let's say you rinsed your mouth, you spit the water out, and there is some substance of water that is left over which mix up with your saliva, and then you swallow it, it will not nullify your fast. Your fast will be valid. So if you're fasting and let's say you're having foreplay, and that foreplay eventually leads up to an action, intercourse, then this will make qada and kafara compulsory upon you. If it was only foreplay, no intercourse has happened, then it's considered makruh. It's considered dislike, but the fasting will still be valid. Okay, inshallah. Yes, brother. If the children, if the family members or the heirs know that Hajj was compulsory upon them, then if they do it on their behalf, it still be considered valid. Yes, even though they did not execute the will of saying that go and perform Hajj. The heirs can do it on their behalf, yes. So he has to give fidya of the fast. Fidya will be equivalent to 3.75 wheat flour. That's the minimum, right? That's the minimum amount that needs to be given, which is sadaqal fitr. So each fast will be one sadaqal fitr. جزاك الله خير سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك